Hi, okay, so for our final project, we decided to walk around campus and conduct a series of interviews with students. I think we can all agree as a group that the main takeaway from this class was the adequate need for accessibility and proper education on the topic of disability. With that, we thought it would be interesting to interview random students, see what percentage had a disability, what percentage did not, and if they didn't have a disability, we asked about their interpretations of disability.
So to add on to what Eliana was saying, the reason that I really wanted to do these interviews is because I think the main thing that I took away from this class is that if you're not disabled right now, you will be at some point in life. And even if you aren't, like, it's just not on people's radars at all when it should be. I think it's like literally everyone's responsibility to work towards an accessible environment, and that's something that I did not realize before taking this class. And so by doing interviews and just being able to like talk about disability face to face with my peers who I see on campus every day, I wanted to do that just to kind of like put it on their radar if it's not, and just like get them kind of thinking about it.
To add on to what Shira was saying, we wanted to do this interview experiment because although college students and university attendees are generally more educated, the distance between what they know or have been taught and the real world is pretty extensive.
Okay, so before seeing the clips of our interviews, you're going to see 3 clips of us 3 all talking about our disabilities.
I'm Shira and I struggle with depression, and you know, people just don't understand how much it impacts my life, especially as a college student, because there are some days where I literally just cannot get out of bed, and it's not really my choice. It's literally chemicals in my brain, and I want people to understand that invisible disabilities such as depression, anxiety, so many others are just as important as the ones that you can see, and we need accommodations too.
Hi, my name is Kate and I have anxiety. I feel like being a college student with anxiety prevents me from doing a lot of things like raising my hand in class or being comfortable with cold calling, especially like it almost makes me want to cry. And I feel like especially teachers need to be cognizant of that, of kids with anxiety and different kinds of anxieties. I just feel like the education there's just not much. And I feel like especially being educators, they should know who they're educating and know how to properly inform them and how to properly make sure that all the points get across without triggering anything.
Hi, I'm Eliana. I have dyslexia and ADHD. It affects me in every form of education when it comes to college. And I would like people to know that people with dyslexia aren't just like stupid. We just have trouble when it comes to things academically, but in the real world, we have like so many other abilities that make life so much easier. Same with ADHD. I feel like people think that we're just like crazy and like running wild. In reality, there's like so many other struggles that come with it, and it's also like so normal. Like I think such a large percent of college students have.
So do you have a disability of any kind?
I do not.
No. Do you like, what do you think of? What pops into your head when you hear the word disability?
I guess it depends on, I don't know if this is bad, but like the setting, you know, because for like a school, I would think of someone who maybe needs more extra time on a test or in a different room to focus.
No, that's not bad at all. That's totally makes sense.
Yeah, or like I have family members who have disabilities, so you know, I just think of them, and just sometimes you just need to slow down and maybe take some extra time with them.
Right. I was gonna ask if you knew anybody with a disability, and like, what would you say like is one like hope you have for like future and like accessibility for your disabled family members?
I feel like we're kind of already seeing this, but I would just, I don't know, just the stigma around it all. It's just so,
The stigma.
they're not different. There's like some people tend to treat them differently.
Yeah.
So obviously. But.
Love that.
Thank you so much.
Do you guys have disabilities or are you guys disabled in any way?
I have ADHD and anxiety. If that counts.
So what do you guys first think of when you think of disability?
Anything like diagnosed that impairs your like, I don't know, ability to like function in society, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Someone thinking differently than like normal with it, I guess.
So
like they have
thinking
like their
differently,
own
like
way.
mental impairment.
not like impairment, they're just like they have like their own way of getting to like point A to point B than other people, I guess.
Great. Thank you so much.
Hi guys. So, do you guys have a disability of any sort? Like nothing, like depression, OCD, anxiety, because that's totally valid too.
Not really.
Okay. So, what's the first thing that pops into your guys' mind when you think of disability?
Depression.
Depression?
Yeah. Like a wheelchair.
A wheelchair. Okay, so that's interesting. You think of it as more physical, but you actually think of like mental disabilities. Okay, so did you know, Ryan, that 20% of college kids actually have invisible disabilities?
I believe it.
Okay, so Ryan, do you think invisible disabilities are as valid as physical disabilities, like a wheelchair?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yes. Okay.
Do you have a disability?
I do not.
What is the first thing that comes to mind when I say the word disability?
Hurt.
Hurt? Valid. So you think of like physical only
Yeah.
disabilities. Did you know that 20% of college students have disabilities that are invisible? So it's like mental health stuff, so depression, anxiety, also like dyslexia, ADHD.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Do you have a disability of any kind?
I do. I have ADHD.
Really? Okay. So how does it affect you in a good way and a bad way?
In a good way, I feel like I'm always active to do something and always willing to go out and just be active and get my stuff done. In a negative way, I would say it's hard to stay still and just like sit back and relax
Yeah.
and not have to do anything. Always have to have your mind running.
Totally.
So
Okay, what's one misconception that you feel like people have about ADHD?
when people think about ADHD, I feel like people give it more weight than it actually is. I think people need to just like to calm it down a couple notches and not think it's like, oh my god, you have ADHD, or like, oh, you're not doing well in school because you have ADHD. I think that's the misconception that people have.
Okay, so do you have a disability?
Yes.
What is that disability?
I'm autistic and I also have ADHD, and I don't know if this counts as a disability, but I have chronic plantar fasciitis, which is a foot condition.
Yeah, that's definitely a disability. What are the ways that you would say Chapman could do a better job accommodating to your disabilities? If there are any.
I'd say making like accommodations more accessible and making it easier to like communicate with professors about like certain like accommodations I might need. Like for example, I like when there's like a written schedule on the board because because of my autism, I like knowing what's going to happen. So I wish I didn't have to like directly email my professors about them because it can be kind of like awkward, I guess. So I wish there was a way through like the accommodation center that I could like request them to tell them.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So just wondering, do you have a disability of any sort? I do not. Do you not? So what is like the first thing that pops into your head when you think of like disability?
I mostly think of like learning disabilities.
Learning disabilities? Dyslexia. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's actually super cool that you're like aware that disabilities, a lot of them are invisible, especially with college students. Like over 20% are actually disabled in an invisible way. Do you think there's any way like Chapman could be more accessible for those students?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of students have to prepare a lot like by themselves before getting to a class.
Yeah.
Instead of being able to like walk into the class and feel like they're gonna have their needs met.
Right.
So maybe some.
So just kind of like already having their needs met. Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Do you have a disability?
Yes, I have two. I have type 1 diabetes and dyslexia.
How do you think Chapman can make it more accessible for people with disabilities?
Honestly, I think they do a really good job already, like with accommodations and everything. I think just like teachers being a bit more understanding would help, but I don't know if that's really something like that the administration can do. Like I think it's more on a like one-on-one kind of level.
Do you think there's anything that the students as a population can do or be more understanding or acknowledging of, or do you think it's fine as is?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't really like experienced anything bad as far as that goes. So for me, no, but I'm sure people with other disabilities like have had different experiences. So
Do you have a disability of any kind?
Yeah, I guess I have OCD.
I feel like Chapman could do better to make it more accessible for people with OCD.
I would say maybe organizing groups and like study rooms, just because sometimes OCD people can get a little stressed out and like I don't know, they want to have everything kind of figured out, you know. So maybe study groups to help each other get
Okay,
together. You know?
love that. And then my last question is, what is one misconception about OCD that you want people to rearrange?
Figure it out.
Yeah.
I would say maybe that everyone just thinks it's like you just need to be organized all the time, you know. It's definitely like a state of mind that you have, and like things that you go about is different.
Okay.
So maybe just everyone kind of generalizing, or not generalizing, but focusing in on more and learning about it, you know.
Love that. Thank you. Do you have a disability of any kind?
I would say no. I don't have anything diagnosed, but maybe anxiety. I get stressed out.
Anxiety? That's
Yeah.
totally valid. That's totally a disability. What would you say, like, the worst way and the best way it affects your life?
It affects my life in a good way because it makes me want to be more productive. Like I'm going to grind until that anxiety's gone. But the worst thing about it is that I stress about it before I can do it. So like it just makes my whole day worse.
Yeah. If there's like one way that you could say Chapman could be more accessible for people with anxiety, like what's one thing that you would implement?
Maybe being able to change your test schedule is pretty tough. Like you have like,
That's a
I'll
good
have like
one.
3 tests in one day and then won't have one for like 2 months.
That's a good one.
It's like, that's maybe one thing that has to do with it.
I have anxiety myself. I relate to that. So that was the end of our interviews. We all really enjoyed this. It was actually super like interesting and eye-opening to see how many people do struggle with a disability, and honestly the awareness was very surprising in a good way. And it was interesting to see the different perceptions. You know, some think of it as physical, some people think of it more like mental. And I'm just really glad that we got to do this. So thanks for watching.